The anime opens by showing a woman who is stabbing a man's body. What's actually happening is still unknown. But right after she imbues the dagger with electrical energy, she addresses the man Tomokui Kaneda. Meanwhile, Kaneda, who is no longer able to do anything, can only surrender to the fate that awaits him right before his eyes. The next day, Kaneda wakes up and finds an ugly goblin giving him a random name. He is then called by Gabiru. On the second day, Gabiru figures out that after he was stabbed by the woman, he was then reincarnated into a green goblin. On the third day, Gabiru finds out that the goblins have a very fast growth phase. He was a baby yesterday, but he has become a teenager. After adapting with his new body, Gabiru, who is now on his fourth day after reincarnation, is informed by the goblin elder that today is the last time he gives food to Gabiru and the others because they have to find their own food starting from today. Gabiru takes his food and devours it heartily. He then looks at the other goblins who also eat his food like him. After eating his food, Gabiru walks out of the cave for the very first time. After observing the new world, he invites the other goblin, Gobikichi, to accompany him hunting in the forest. In the forest, Gobikichi chases their prey while Gabiru catches it when it is off guard. As Gobikichi wants to eat their prey, Gabiru gives him a lesson so he can be more polite with him. Mysteriously, Gabiru feels and sees a notification that he has just received an item even though he doesn't know what he just felt. After that, Gabiru and Gobikichi enjoy their prey. Long story short, as time goes by and the more often Gabiru hunts, the more he can feel the same notifications as the previous one. The notification becomes clearer as Gabiru eats his prey. This time where suddenly he obtains the escape skill, which looks like it belongs to the rabbit they just hunted. Learning that, Gabiru remembers his past life as Kaneda, who has a rare skill called Absorption, a skill that can absorb power from whatever object he eats. Although he obtained this skill, he regrets that his other skills did not carry over with him. Even so, he feels thankful that he got the Absorption skill because it can be a long-term investment for him. On the sixth day, a female goblin named Gobuma approaches Gabiru and Gobikichi. She admits that she admires Gabiru, who looks very cool and dashing to her. Gabiru, who feels that Gobuma can be a new partner, immediately invites her to hunt with him. The next day, Gabiru and his company are ready to hunt in the forest. However, they have to postpone their plan because of the rain. Feeling that he has spare time, Gabiru goes to check the storage to get something he can make a weapon from. However, he is shocked to find women in the storage. He seems to know why the women are there, but he doesn't want to think about it. While making a weapon, the elder goblin named Gobuji approaches him and is surprised that Gabiru has leveled up quickly. However, Gabiru doesn't understand with what the elder said. The elder goblin then demonstrates how to identify his level. Gabiru imitates and he finds out that he has reached level 86. It is explained that if a monster reaches level 1000, it can evolve into a more advanced monster. Even so, Gobuji feels doubtful because the evolution of a goblin into a hobgoblin can be said to be very rare. After all, even Gobuji himself, although he looks old, is actually only in his 20s. While walking away, Gobuji states that the young goblins and hobgoblin will return home and give them the prey they caught. Long story short, day by day, the combination of Gabiru, Gobikichi, and Gobuma's attacks keep getting better, and even Gabiru himself manages to get a lot of skills and increase his level in a fairly short time. With the hope and goal to survive in a very harsh new place, Gabiru continues to prepare many things to hunt there. However, on the 11th day, when Gabiru and his party hunt in the forest, they spot a group of bats. Gabiru tells Gobuma to run away while he and Gobikichi will fight them. After defeating the bats with his evil eye skill, Gabiru and his party enjoy their prey and Gabiru obtains new skill from the bats. Unbeknownst to them, several goblins observe them from afar. Due to their jealousy of Gabiru, several goblins plan to hurt Gabiru. However, Gabiru's skills are active and he attacks them. He teaches them a lesson not to mess with him anymore. One of them even dies from Gabiru's venom skill. Just then, Gobuma wakes up and looks angry as they hurt Gabiru. She then immediately attacks them before Gabiru stops her. On the 13th day, Gabiru's party intends to target an orc. Even though at first Gobikichi and Gobuma are overwhelmed, in the end the three of them manage to defeat the orc with a combination attack. After eating the orc flesh, Gabiru seems to achieve libido, orc language, and detection analysis skill. After making sure that his teammates are already filled, he gives the other goblins in the cave their praise. Even though they feel bad after trying to attack Gabiru while he was sleeping before, they are still allowed to eat all the prey he brought. Gabiru, who never helped other people in his previous life, suspects something has changed besides his green appearance. Later that night, without him realizing it, the system gives him two options whether he will evolve into a hobgoblin. Gabiru feels too tired to read all the instructions, so he chooses yes and goes back to sleep. Without him realizing it, Gabiru has evolved into a hobgoblin, meaning that he has reached level 100. Also, Gobikichi, who always goes hunting with him, has also evolved just like him. Gobyume looks at them and feels happy because they grow taller and become cooler. Gobuji approaches them and is surprised with their achievement because they have only been born into this world for 2 weeks, but they have reached level 100 and have evolved into Hobgoblin. Gobikichi then invites Gabiru to a duel to find out how strong he is now. Even though Gobikichi is superior in power and endurance, Gabiru is far above him in terms of intelligence, stamina, speed, and experience. After successfully knocking him out, Gobikichi admits how great Gabiru is in everything, but Gabiru convinces his friend that he is superior in terms of physical strength. Gobikichi is happy to hear Gabiru's words just now. Just then, Gabiru senses something is coming. He then calls Gobyume, who is hiding behind a tree, and tells her to take the crossbow they made before. The scene then shows a group of wolves chasing several horned rabbits. Not wanting them to enter the goblin's territory, a poison arrow stuck in its body. After that, Gabiru and the team bring their prey to their friends in the cave. This time, Gabiru tells them to bring in at least one prey on their own. Although in the beginning they feel it is difficult, they accept the requirement because Gabiru has done a lot for them. They then ask Gabiru to teach them how to hunt properly. Hearing their request, Gabiru accepts it and agrees to teach them hunting and crafting weapons. All goblins are happy and they cheer for Gabiru. Meanwhile, Gabiru seems to have a vision of the future that he will go through in his new world, and that future is nothing but eating, so his strength continues to increase, and he also intends to add troops and lead his new troops later. However, even on the 17th day, not a single through until today. He keeps eating any opponents to obtain their power. Just then, several hobgoblins are seen walking closer. Seeing them, Gabiru intends to welcome them with his swords, but is stopped by Gobuji. Gobuji explains that they are the raiders who left their place to look for supplies, and they are basically Gabiru Generation's parents. After collecting the supplies they brought, it is seen they also bring several human women. Gobuji feels glad that they find several girls after losing all human women in one night because they will help the goblin have the next generation. Gabiru then asks if he can look after the girls, which enrages the leader of the raiders. Hobuken pulls Gabiru's collar and scolds him. Seeing Gabiru in danger, the new generation of goblins take up arms and create a dispute between the two generations. Just then, 2 goblin girls come and settle the matter. They are Hobusato and the mage Hobze. They then propose a duel between the leaders to settle the issue. Hobuken and Gabiru agree to fight, and they are not allowed to use any weapons. They then start the duel, and Hobuken loses from Gabiru after being entangled in a spider web that came out of Gabiru's finger. It is explained that he obtained this skill after eating the demon spiders. The duel ends with Gabiru's victory in less than a second. Hobusato and Hobze are impressed with that. With the result, all goblins, including the old generation, have to admit Gabiru as the leader of the goblin village. Afterward, Gabiru takes the human women into the storage and tells them that the goblins are not allowed to lay a hand on them. They are surprised to hear that Gabiru won't harm them and intends to return them one day. The red-haired girl is Rubelia. The twins are Alma and Felicia. The girl in glasses is Spinal, and the last one, the brown-haired girl, is Emery. Rubelia then asks Gabiru what he wants in return. Gabiru, who basically has a reason for saving them, tells the girls his intention. It sounds strange for his race, but with his human soul in his body, Gabiru wants to learn about the human race from them. After explaining what happened before they got caught, Rubelia and her friends feel sad after losing their family and friends. On the 28th day, Rubelia welcomes and greets Gabiru with her smile. Gabiru knows that the girls can only try to be strong to ease their burden and help them. Gabiru also cooked them warm food from the raiders' looted goods because, as far as he knows, nice and warm food can heal someone's mental burden. It is explained that the girls have different jobs. Emery is an appraiser and a smith. The twins are cooks and tailors. Spinal is an alchemist and Rubelia is a rookie warrior. But because she still cannot do anything, Gabiru intends to let her join the training. Later, Gabiru teaches a lesson to 2 hobgoblins from old generations for disobeying his order. Because their grudge is still clearly embedded in them, this makes the older generation of hobgoblins ignore the Gabiru's orders not to approach the girls. However, when the hobgoblins want to vent their lust on Rubelia and her friends, Gabiru suddenly appears behind them and smacks their heads. The girls look terrified by the incident. Gabiru then approaches them and apologizes for scaring them. After that, other goblins show up and Gabiru tells them to drive Hobuko and his underlings away from the scene. He also tells them to wake the other goblins and gather them outside. Outside the cave, Gabiru teaches a lesson to other goblins and at the same time clarifies his power over the goblin village. Hobuken's men are still alive while Hobuken passed away from serious injuries. The next day, they hunt a tree-horned horse. With a great effort, they are finally able to take it down and eat its flesh with Gobu, who joins their party. After obtaining many skills, Gabiru tries the triple thrust skill he just obtained and is surprised with the result. Later that night, while Gabiru is sleeping, Rubelia climbs on his bed. In the morning, Gabiru is surprised to find Gobumi on his bed. On the same day, Gob seems to evolve into a hobgoblin. Then it is explained the division of tasks, which are divided into several divisions. Gobukichi is the captain of the armored fighters, while Gobumi takes care of the ranged unit. Hobuseto is in charge of the lightly armored force, and God takes over assorted chores. Hobse, the mage, will be the captain of the magic force. She is the only one in the division because there aren't any goblins who know magic yet. After giving instruction to the captains of all divisions, Gabiru intends to hunt more monsters so he can obtain more power and skills. After using Gaidur for the first time, he just realizes that he went too far into the forest. As Gabiru finds the monster's blood stain, he remembers Gobuji's warning about not being allowed to enter the northern forest because there is the nest of the northern wood ruler whose name is Red Bear. Unfortunately, as Gabiru observes the dead monster, the Red Bear appears. Gabiru is surprised to see the monster in front of him, but he doesn't intend to run away. The scene switches to the goblin village. Gobumi and Gob look worried because no one has seen Gabiru the whole day. They can only hope and pray that Gabiru is doing fine. Switching back to Gabiru, he unleashes an attack on the Red Bear, but is defended by sacrificing its arm. The Red Bear goes on a rampage and tries to attack Gabiru with its claws. Gabiru keeps avoiding the attacks and hopes that he doesn't get hit. Gabiru almost gets hit after he miscalculates the beast's sturdiness. Gabiru then launches his spider web skill to stop its movement, but it can easily break all the threads and breathes fire. After burning the surroundings, Gabiru seems to challenge the Red Bear once again after healing his burn. This time, even though Gabiru manages to block the bear's fire with his water shield, he doesn't take into account whether the Northern Wood ruler in front of him would immediately die or not after he stuck his sword right into his throat. Even though the sword is still stuck inside its mouth, the beast is still alive, and the title of the most powerful beast in the Northern Woods is not just a rumor. Meanwhile, Gabiru gets hit by the beast's attack and he hits the tree. Both of them are suffering from great injuries, but Gabiru stands up and fights the overpowering Red Bear again so he can eat its flesh. In the last attempt, Gabiru attacks, but his arm looks severed. The scene then shows Gabiru, who loses his left arm, and the Red Bear's claws on his stomach. Surprisingly, Gabiru is still alive and manages to defeat the Northern Wood ruler. He wakes up and eats the bear's flesh, and the system suddenly informs him that he has met certain conditions, and now he can evolve into a rare species of ogre. After confirming the option, Gabiru appears to be still alive and eating the bear because he is starving. After obtaining many skills from the bear, Gabiru is surprised to find he has evolved into an ogre. His arrival spreads panic among the goblins as they think an ogre is coming to attack their village. However, Gobumi shows up and figures out that an ogre in front of them is none other than Gabiru. She scolds Gabiru for leaving them while the other goblins are impressed with him. Gabiru feels thankful that he manages to survive and return to the place he was reincarnated. The scene continues by showing everyone's shock as they see Gabiru, who has evolved into an ogre after defeating the Northern Forest ruler at only 1 month old. Gabiru walks towards the storage and is followed by Gobumi and Rubelia. Gabiru tries to prove himself as Gabiru they know. Gobumi looks puzzled and pinches his leg, while Gabiru lets her do that, although he doesn't know his fault. Next, Gabiru praises Emery for successfully making a knight from the spirit stones. He also compliments the twins Alma and Felicia that they will be great wives, and he even offers them to be his wives. Meanwhile, Spinal, who made poison to protect her life, has changed her mind due to Gabiru's kindness, and it makes her trust him. Due to his sweet words to the girls, he is disturbed by Rubelia and Gobumi, who express their jealousy. Therefore, Gabiru has to accompany them all day willy-nilly. On the 36th day, Gabiru trains several hobgoblins, including Gobukichi. Feeling the power gap is getting bigger, Gobukichi decides to hunt in the forest to clear his mind. Meanwhile, Gobumi and Hobuseto have become close friends. Elsewhere, Gobu and other goblins are mining stones in the cave, while Rubelia is training herself in the forest. On the other hand, Gabiru is sewing a blanket with Hobuse, who is reading a book. On the 37th day, Gobu runs to the goblin village while carrying an injured carbuncle he found while mining. Gabiru quickly helps her and proceeds to heal the carbuncle. After she is healed, the carbuncle named Returner explains the situation to them. It turns out she was attacked by humans, which Gabiru realizes it must because of the gemstone on her forehead. It is a high-ranking item which is said to be worth 1 billion gold. Returner begs Gabiru and his friends to chase off the humans. Seeing that, Gabiru remembers the legendary mage named Velvet who created the carbuncles to be the guardian of the master's treasury. Gabbro finds out that the core of the carbuncle in front of him is damaged due to the attack, and it makes her life won't last longer. Returner states that her master prefers to give the legacy to Gabbro rather than have it fall into humans. Seeing her sincere request, Gabbro quickly accepts it. He then asks Emery to give him the knife from the Spirit Stone, as it will be safer to carry a weapon than to fight barehanded. Rubelia looks worried and is comforted by Goro. He says he only wants to talk to the humans, but if they refuse to listen, then he will make a move willy-nilly. Gobu digs the wall and heads towards Velvet's treasury. Gabbro tells Gobu-Kichi and the others to hide if anything while he tries to reason with the humans. However, the humans refuse to listen to him and attack Gabbro. They even look down on him and call him an ordinary ogre. Gobu tries to warn them, but they keep attacking him. One of them even strikes him with thunder magic. However, they are shocked to find Gabbro is still fine and he attacks them all. After defeating them, Gabbro and his friends strip off their belongings and their bodies are also completely eaten. Besides getting skills, Gabbro and the party also get the adventurer's magic items, for example, a magic backpack that can store up to 200 types of items, which change into an internal storage dimension. When Gabbro eats it, the item is upgraded and can store up to 1,200 types of items with 99 copies of each item. Seeing that everything is solved, they head to the treasury, which contains lots of legacy and the body of the legendary mage Velvet. Returner thanks Gabbro for helping her and is now relieved because the adventurers have been dealt with. She prays for Gabbro and the others' safety before she finally vanishes, leaving her gemstone. Gobu-Kichi seems worried about Gobu and he seems to have a crush on her. After Gabbro and the others pray for Returner and Velvet, they work together to collect all the treasure and take it into the interdimensional storage. After that, Gabbro cremates the body of Velvet so he can rest in peace. As the body vanishes, Gabbro is shocked to find a remarkable item. Long story short, after clearing the quest, they hold a party to celebrate their success. On the 39th day, Gabbro gives magic weapons from the treasure chamber to the hobgoblins. Meanwhile, he takes 3 legendary items, namely the Vermilion Spear, Kazaklu Bay, the Magic Bracelet, Solitary Fury, and the Silver Arm. Gabbro explains the ranks of the items starting from inferiority from Phantasm, and Legendary is below Phantasm rank, which is believed to be able to rule the country. On the 40th day, Gabbro decides to hold a tournament for a new leader of the hobgoblins to replace himself, who has evolved into an ogre. On the next day, Gabbro strolls down the forest while hunting several rare monsters to get the skills. Unexpectedly, he finds a large, beautiful tree illuminated by sunlight, which makes the tree even more beautiful. Long story short, he remembers that the giant tree is the home of a species called dryads who love to seduce males of other races to become a source of nutrition. With their beautiful looks with splendid figures, they are able to deceive males, including Gobuji, who wishes to meet them before he dies. As to why he remembers all of this is because there is a dryad in front of him. Gabbro tries to hold himself, but he gives in and ends up spending time together with the dryad. The dryad looks satisfied and asks Gabbro to come again. On the 42nd day, Hobusi is happy that his division has 2 members of hobgoblins who can use magic. Long story short, as Gabbro tries to talk to the girls, he feels that he is being ignored by the girls, and they even look at him with anger. He goes to Spinal to ask about it, and it turns out that they have found out that Gabbro made an encounter outside their village. Spinal explains that the girls feel jealous because of that, and she can understand the feeling because she feels the same. As Spinal kisses Gabbro to prove her feelings for him, Gobuma, Rubelia, the twins, and Emery demand for the same thing from him. On the 44th day, Gabbro, with his detection skill, senses several people heading to their base. Gobu-Kichi calls Gabbro, comes out of the cave, and meets the people. Seeing how arrogant the leader of the group is, Gabbro guesses that these people will become troublemakers. Apparently, the elves come to ask the goblins to take back the elves' legacy stolen by the humans. In return, they will provide the goblins with food for months. They think that Gabbro and his people will accept the quest, but they are quite surprised that Gabbro refuses it. Gabbro states that anyone who needs help from others must behave better. Not accepting Gabbro's refusal, the elves' leader intends to attack Gabbro, but is taken down immediately by Gabbro. He grabs the leader's neck and warns him that if he wants to go home safely, he has to tell his archer to put down their bows. Afraid of losing his head, the elves' leader obeys Gabbro's words. Gabbro then takes out his Kazaklu spear and tells the elves that he doesn't refuse to team up with the elves, but he doesn't like their attitude and loses interest. Gabbro then hits the ground with his spear and creates Tsempes, a technique created when Kazaklu Bay hits something and it will create unlimited spears in a 100-meter area. The elves then decide to leave the goblin base. On the next day, Gabbro goes into the forest to hunt gray slimes, and as he eats the core, he gains skill physical resistance, auto-replication, and fluid regeneration. After trying auto-replication skills, he manages to make clones of himself with his blood. Later, Gabiru tells Gobumi and the other girls to make clothes whose threads have been coated using his blood. It is intended so that Gabiru knows if they are in danger. On the 47th day, thanks to Gabiru's clone, which he uses as the security camera, he can see the arrival of a group of elves who seem to have bad intentions. As they arrive in front of the base, the leader of the elves tells his men to attack the goblins. But before they can draw their swords, Gabiru roars and comes out of the cave. He then captures the elves using his spider web. Gabiru gathers them and questions the elves. However, the elf leader still acts arrogantly and looks down on the goblin race. He says that the goblins are a useless low race who should be punished. Different from the elf leader, the other elves apologize to Gabiru and state that they tried to stop him, but he didn't listen to them. Learning that Gabiru intends to spare the elves, excluding the leader, if they can win the mock battle with the goblins. Long story short, 6 of the 26 elves are defeated by the goblins, and all 6 of them are males who were deliberately made to lose by Gabiru, as he doesn't want to see a woman die in front of him. Gabiru then eats the elves' flesh and obtains Resident of Evergreen, Elementaler, knowledge of archery, tracking, and hiding abilities. Although 17 female elves are declared to win the battle, Gabiru doesn't want to free them and intends to take them hostage. As he briefs the elves, Gobuji comes with shaky hips. Gabiru then warns Gobuji not to lay a hand on the elves. Gobuji understands the situation and behaves like a wise elder. After that, Gabiru turns to the elf leader and is ready to execute him for ignoring his warning. On the 48th day, Gobikichi hits level 100, and on the next day, he goes to see Gabiru and Gobumi in his new form, a unique ogre with reddish skin blessed by the demigod of fire and the durability blessed by the demigod of war. Gobikichi, who knows that Gabiru can't find an equal sparring opponent, offers to be his first opponent who can fight him equally. Gabiru feels glad and accepts the offer right away. Although Gabiru manages to defeat Gobikichi, he realizes that Gobikichi is now his rival. The scene then shows Gabiru wandering in a cave. There, he meets a mysterious goblin who gives him an unknown item whose use hasn't been disclosed. Even though it feels real, it turns out to be only a dream. Gabiru wakes up and wonders the meaning of his dream. On the 51st day, 4 goblins are seen to be able to awaken their power after seeing Gabiru and the others' efforts. With the 4 hobgoblins, Gobuji apparently manages to evolve into a hobgoblin who has the suitability as a cleric. Later, Gabiru realizes that Hobusei has also evolved into a half-spell Lord of the Lord family subspecies. Hobusei wanders with marks on her arms which usually don't appear on the Lord's body. Although it looks slightly different, Gabiru feels the marks are quite similar to the marks on his body. Seeing Gabiru spacing out, Hobusei invites Gabiru to test her power after she evolves. Long story short, Gabiru stops Hobusei from firing her power 20 times more and thinks that regarding the half-species race, he believes that Hobusei can evolve into the true Spell Lord. To celebrate her evolution, Hobusei is provided a new equipment with legendary rank. Gabiru feels glad because the more often the goblin race undergoes evolution, this encourages the others to become stronger and catch up to those who have evolved. Even though many of them are inspired, there are also quite a few goblins who give up on evolving and decide to leave the colony. Gabiru respects their decision and gives them a mithril dagger to protect themselves from danger. On the 53rd day, Gabiru encounters a boar dragging a human who has a skill that catches his attention. After defeating the boar and eating the human, Gabiru obtains Monster Tamer skill. Later that night, after Spinal successfully makes booze at Gabiru's request, he feels happy and thanks her. On the next day, they hold a feast and Gabiru tells the others about the matter regarding the older generation goblins previously. Gabiru intends to let everyone who wants to leave the colony. He will respect their decision and will give them an item as a farewell gift. Later, Gabiru makes a communication device for everybody. On the next day, Gobikichi accompanies Gobu, who successfully takes down a Trinhorn horse in one strike. Seeing the monster isn't dead yet, Gabiru intends to use Monster Tamer skill on the beast. On the 58th day, Gabiru is chasing a group of black wolves while riding a gray bear. Capturing the black wolves, Gabiru tames the leader and makes him the guardian of the girls so they remain safe, even though they are not nearby. On the next day, Gabiru watches Rubelia's growth as she faces off against some kobolds. After training Rubelia, Gabiru is surprised when she suddenly gets her first job after eating the monster's meat. Nor Soldat is her new job that requires her to eat monsters or she may die. In return, she will obtain an overwhelming power buff. On the 60th day, Gabiru wakes up as he detects some kobolds running away from something. Although they don't know what they are up against, Gabiru tells his comrade to stand by. After the kobolds are let in, it turns out the troops attacking them are a large group of skeletons. Learning that their weapons don't work on them, Gabiru senses the strong aura which is believed to be the one who creates the skeletons. Gabiru then tells his troops to handle the skeletons barehanded. They finally manage to take down the skeletons one by one. Then Gabiru intends to end the rest in 10 seconds. Surprisingly, he manages to destroy all the skeletons in less than 10 seconds along with their creator. After destroying the skeletons 3 seconds faster than he assumed, Gabiru takes the leader's head and gains summoning lower undeads, high armor tier, mana absorption, and low magic damage reduction abilities. The kobolds thank Gabiru for saving them. Apparently, the kobolds accidentally dug up the passageway to the Velvet Room and activated the skeleton's seal. According to the jungle law, the strong will defeat the weak. Even though they know about it, they still thank Gabiru and his friends for saving them. The scene continues on the 61st day. Gabiru and Gabi-Kichi spot 12 soldiers of the human kingdom passing by their territory. Gabiru eavesdrops on their conversation and finds out that they intend to kidnap the beloved daughter of the elven chieftain Malefalo Reinfall. They get information about her based on the information from the elf trader. Later that night, they begin to carry out their plan when Princess Malefalo's entourage passes by. At first, Gabiru doesn't want to interfere, but he feels bad just abandoning her to the evil soldier's hand. He changes his mind and decides to help her. On the next day, Gabiru questions the 12 soldiers and obtains crucial information. It is revealed that in the 20 days ahead, the troops of the human kingdom will attack the elf village. Gabiru, who feels the human's skill is quite interesting, quickly eats him and obtains many skills from him. As Princess Malefalo wakes up, she screams seeing an ogre before her. She looks terrified, and without listening to Gabiru's explanation, she accuses Gabiru of wanting to harm her. After she learns the situation, she finally understands and scolds Gabiru for letting her soldiers die. Gabiru explains that the goblin race does not have anything to do with the clash between the human and elf tribes. Moreover, he says that instead of scolding him, she'd better find out who the imposter is who has teamed up with the human kingdom. On the 63rd day, Gabiru and Gabi-Kichi take the elven princess back to her home. After getting an explanation of why the elf princess can have wings, Gabiru learns that high elves are an evolution of ordinary elves, and this allows them to grow. Princess Malefalo stops them and tells them that Gabiru and Gabi-Kichi are her savior. The three are his daughter, but Gabiru refuses to accept the gratitude and demands a reward. It turns out that he only tests the chief to find out what his daughter means to him. The chief then presents him with a valuable treasure and expresses that his daughter is more valuable than anything. Hearing that, Gabiru then tells him the truth. Moreover, he wants to exchange for something else and gives crucial information about the human kingdom. The chief accepts it and provides them with lots of mithril equipment. In return, Gabiru gives the chief spirit stone knives and magical item shovels. Later, the elf chieftain asks Gabiru if he knows about their elite group who have been missing for 20 days. Gabiru responds awkwardly and says he knows nothing. Before leaving the village, the chieftain also gives Gabiru and Gabi-Kichi presents several medicines and the elven liquor. Later that night, Gabiru tastes the liquor given by the elf chieftain. He feels like it is the best liquor he has ever tasted. On the other hand, Gabiru doesn't realize that Gobumi has been acting strange. The next morning, Gabiru wakes up to find a shocking fact before him. It turns out Gobumi has evolved beautifully. Besides Gobumi, 8 goblins have also evolved into hobgoblins. Gabiru tells Gobumi not to take off her glass except to fight against their enemies. The goblins gawp at seeing Gobumi's evolution. Meanwhile, Gabiru feels like he has seen her before. On the other hand, Gobu evolved into a half-Earth Lord. The scene then shows Gabiru's monologue explaining the half-Earth Lord's skills. Meanwhile, Hobisato evolved into a half-Blood Lord who is capable of controlling blood into a weapon. Gobuyo then thinks of the marks on their body. Even though they have different patterns and locations, they believe their power comes from these marks. Seeing many of his foster children had evolved, Abuji then gives them a new name. Long story short, after providing the kobolds with the communication earrings, Gabiru faces difficulty when he wants to give them to the elves. Apparently, giving jewels to the elves and piercing their ears can be compared to usurping the chastity. Then Gabiru takes his time to relieve the elves. After getting the communication earrings, Gabiru trains the kobolds and the elves so they can become stronger. Gabiru uses the skeleton he made using his summon lower undead skill. Instead of a naked skeleton, an armored skeleton appears. On the 65th day, although Gabiru is capable of creating skeletons and other undeads, they are not edible and will be purified once they get the sunrays. The next day, Gabiru tells the kobolds to hunt some wolves so their familiar increases. Unexpectedly, the kobolds can hunt quickly and capture 20 wolves alive. Later, Gabiru feels satisfied with Emery's war axe modification. On the 67th day after listening to Gabi-Kichi, who reveals his feelings to Gobu, Gabiru encourages Gabi-Kichi to confess tonight, and he will wait for the news tomorrow. The next morning, Gabi-Kichi seems to get the strongest buff, and he even manages to land a critical hit on Gabiru. Unbeknownst to him, Gobu had told Gobumi about her feelings. This is what makes Gabiru believe and encourage Gobikichi to confess to her. Gabiru heads to see Gobiu to see her condition and tells her about Gobikichi, who is sparring with his skeleton. After training, Gabiru's team goes into the forest to hunt several new monsters, and it makes him obtain lots of new skills. Of all the new skills he obtained, he is interested in exoskeleton ability. Surprisingly, it can transform his outfit into armor, and it even has regeneration skills and disperse impacts. Although it is a good outfit, Gabiru finds his look too striking. Later, the system shows him his exoskeleton shell rank. It shows that the Red Bear Beast King is in the first place, while the other 4 places are still empty. Gabiru wants to register forms for aerial and sea battles. On the 69th day, the rain pours down after a long time. Having nothing to do, Gabiru does sparring with Rubelia. After that, he makes new items with Emery and 2 elves, Karu and Aru. They often come to the workshop so Gabiru can learn many things about equipment. He learns that mithril can be processed into amalgam before it is processed further into weapons. Even his halberd is also made of the amalgam. There, they manage to make a crossbow that will be mass-produced. After eating, Gabiru teaches them about the food from his previous world, such as potato chips and others. By evening, Gabiru accompanies Spinal, who gives him a bone nail made from his black skeleton. Spinal believes it is her masterpiece since she got the creation skill. Seeing how she winks at him, Gabiru cannot realize since when he is mesmerized by her beauty. However, the girls appear and show their jealousy. The next morning, they are visited by several elves sent by the elven chieftain. So as not to be found out, Gabiru quickly disguises the elf prisoners using their communication earrings, which can disguise them into the dark elves. Apparently, the elves intend to borrow Gabiru and his friends' power without worrying about the reward. However, the contract will be void if the enemy decides to withdraw. Without thinking twice, Gabiru accepts the term gladly, but he emphasizes that they will move on their own without being commanded by the elves. After Gabiru gives them the communication bracelet for the chief, the elves excuse themselves. Gabiru then tells Gobumi to gather everyone because after training for a long time and becoming much stronger, they finally become a mercenary company. The group looks excited about their title. Hobius then asks about their company name. Learning the name, everyone is excited and cheers for their new company name, Parabellum. After getting information about the human army who has entered Kudo Woods, Gabiru and the company head to this scene riding on their familiars along with their personnel. Apparently, Gabiru leaves the company early in the morning because one of his clones has found the human army scouting. Arriving at the site, Hobius starts to analyze and tells everyone to destroy the barriers. Gabiru then has his force surround the camp so no one can escape. Once Gabiru boosts his Godurg skill using his Silver Arms attribute, the magical barrier suddenly shatters into pieces. Before the human army can make a move, they are already attacked by the Parabellum with combo attacks. The human army tries to fight back, led by the Lady Commander. Once Gabiru roars as a form of greeting, the Lady Knight aims at him and breaks into the black skeleton force while aided by her troops. However, as she's about to strike Gabiru, she is sent flying and is caught by her troop. She refuses Gabiru's offer and challenges him to fight her with a bet of herself. Before Gabiru starts the duel, he orders his troops to kill everyone apart from several of the Lady Commander's underlings. After Parabellum wipes out the human army, Gabiru takes his stance to fight the commander. Even though she cannot completely pierce his barrier, she's the only one who can reach his skin. At the moment, the mage who supports the commander casts a deadly spell called Weiss Flame and Dragon. Hobius looks worried about Gabiru, who she thinks will face difficulty in withstanding the 5th level spell. Even the Lady Commander is willing to die, meaning that she will take Gabiru to die with her. However, an epic outcome happens when Gabiru neutralizes the Flame and Dragon with several defense skills. Gabiru is satisfied with their first battle, which they can get a great fighter, like the Lady Commander. Before leaving the site, Gabiru takes his time to eat several people whose skills catch his attention. Long story short, after throwing a party with the Elven Chieftain, Gabiru goes to check on the commander and her underlings. It turns out they barely withstand the torture. The next morning, Gabiru provides the commander and the others with the communication earrings so they cannot betray Gabiru. During the party, the Elven Chieftain told Gabiru that he felt bad for bothering Parabellum. Thus, he intended to take part in the battlefield and asked for some information from the prisoners in exchange for 10 barrels of booze. Gabiru contacts the chief via the communication bracelet. He explains that the human army surrounds the elf village from all directions. On the 73rd day, Gabiru and Gobikichi wait for their opponents after setting a trap. Gabiru analyses there will be 500 soldiers and 100 mages involved in the battle. Once they arrive at the site, they are caught in Gabiru's trap, resulting decrease in the number of their soldiers. Of the 500 soldiers, only 100 soldiers remain. Even so, the human armies refuse to give up, and their commander quickly orders his troops to make a wall from stones in their comrades' bodies. After several times, Gabiru orders Gobukichi to break into the formation and get the commander. The human armies try to defend their position, but due to the goblins' smart idea to deal with the human armies, Gobukichi manages to face off the commander. It is the right moment for Gobukichi to prove himself to Gabiru, if he can take control himself or not. Seeing the commander's potential, he is knocked out by Gobukichi and is brought to Gabiru. After reporting their victory to the elven chieftain, Parabellum leaves the battlefield and goes to the next plan. Gabiru and Gobukichi talk about the commander of the human army. Just then, Hobumi pokes Gabiru and says that she wants him. Long story short, on the 74th day, the prisoners taken by Parabellum complain about being imprisoned instead of being killed like the other armies. Then we can see that the commander doesn't have a good relationship with his underlings. He is discriminated against because he is just a commoner, different from the others. Gabiru proceeds to question the commander and finds out some information that leads to the start of the invasion. Apparently, the first princess of the Sternberg kingdom was suffering from a rare disease with a 99% mortality rate. Meanwhile, the princess was going to tie the knot with the future emperor of the Kilika Empire. Thus, in order to find a cure for the princess, a joint force was formed and assigned to find a secret elvish medicine, which is believed to be the blessing of the demigod of forests of the Cuddlewood ruler. However, the humans were too greedy and haughty that they used violence and the war broke out. On the other hand, Gobu accidentally finds a hot spring, so their colony has a new facility. The next morning, Gabiru has an idea to start sparring with the prisoners. Gabiru wants to find out if they have leadership skills. He learns that Gobumi and Hobuse have leadership skills, but they lack decision-making skills. Meanwhile, Gobukichi and Habusado, who have strong muscles and brains, are easily defeated in a chess match. After the human army commander, Steel Kraubach, defeats the Black Skeleton, he challenges Gabiru in a duel. Gabiru accepts it and gives him defensive skills so that he won't die if he gets hit. Steel tries to land a hit on Gabiru, but he ends up losing. After the duel, Gabiru quickly kills Steel. Gobukichi, who sees Steel's spirit and skills, wants to fight him. After the sparring session ends, they enjoy their meal together. There, Steel tells Gabiru that he is from a place with many demi-humans live. Thus, it makes him able to talk to Gabiru more easily than to his human comrades. He even doesn't understand why humans hate demi-humans. Steel is impressed by Gabiru's colony with different races coexist and understands how hard Gabiru's efforts as the leader. Then Steel states that he quits being a soldier of the human army and wants to work for Gabiru. On the 77th day, 3 soldiers of the human army are brought to the elven chieftain because Gabiru thinks they won't give any benefit to him. After the chief accepts them, Gabiru asks him about the secret elvish medicine that Steel talked about. Then the chief admits that the medicine is the item he gave to Gabiru as a reward for his daughter's safety, and it can cure any disease. Although it sounds like a legacy, he prefers to give the medicine to Gabiru, who saved his daughter, than it falls to the humans. Curious about his blood panacea ability, Gabiru tests its benefit by dripping a drop of his blood onto the human captive. Surprisingly, the man suddenly recovers from his injuries in a second. Gabiru wonders if his power has gone up crazily. Several days after the second wave of war, the third wave of war occurs. The battle goes brutally as after striking the commander, Gabiru uses the Tempest ability to wipe out all the human armies. Parabellum continues the strike by advancing the troops and manages to win the bloody battle in only 20 minutes. The next morning, Gabiru, accompanied by Rubelia and Teresa, goes to meet the chieftain in their village. The chief welcomes them warmly and thanks Parabellum, who managed to corner the human army. However, the chief thinks that the battle doesn't give any benefit to them. He then asks Gabiru to allow his elite group to join in the next battle. After Gabiru agrees to the chief's request for a certain amount of payment, they excuse themselves. On the way, Teresa asks something to Gabiru in exchange for an oath to devote herself to him. She asks for permission to carry out her final duty as the royal knight to heal the first princess using the elvish medicine that is currently in Gabiru's hand. Gabiru thinks that even though it will be beneficial if the kingdom can help their colony, the problem is the 5 great grand gods worshipped in that world. The 5 of them often become the beginning of disputes between races. Thus, because Gabiru received a blessing from Demise, an origin god, he believes that it will bring sparks. Long story short, Gabiru and his force deploy to ambush the enemy troops in the next battle. The enemy troops number around 2,000, while the joint force between the Parabellum and the elf troops only numbers 650. Gabiru feels that this battle will be quite difficult and will rise soon. He then has Gobukichi and the others deal with the enemies around while he and the skeletons strike the center formation. It turns out Gabiru put his clone into slime, which covers the skeleton army so they are not weakened in daylight. The scene shows 2 soldiers guarding a member of Ruled Orden, the plague insect hero named Filippo. Although she feels the war will be boring, she suddenly feels excited after seeing Gabiru, who is preparing his attack. She then approaches Gabiru, who is eating a monster. Even though she looks friendly at first, she changes suddenly as Gabiru calls her name. The compound eye is proof that she is the recipient of the insect god's blessings. Filippo complains about her holiday, which is disturbed by Gabiru. Then she asks Gabiru about his god, which she doesn't get the answer. Afterward, Filippo takes out 3 tubes filled with parasitic worms called Undero, which can be combined with her necromancer skill. Learning that, Gabiru assumes that the Undero is a biological weapon. Filippo then tells him about the difference between a hero and a brave. She explains that a hero can strengthen allies of 10 people, while a brave like her can control over 100 allies and enhance them as she wishes. Long story short, after dealing with Gabiru using her insect army with an automatic and direct command, Filippo casts a magic that shakes the ground, which Gobukichi and Parabellum can feel from afar. Just then, a massive centipede suddenly emerges from the ground and hits Gabiru, having him overwhelmed by its attack. Filippo looks extremely happy with her overwhelming pet called Ulterm. Apparently, Ulterm is categorized as a calamity-level beast. Although it is usually assigned for secret missions, she has a strong instinct that she needs the beast for the battle. Its deadly venom quickly weakens Gabiru as it spreads throughout his body. After surviving for quite a long time, Gabiru finally dies. From afar, Gobumi realizes what is happening to Gabiru. As Ulterm disappears, Filippo is taken aback to find Gabiru still alive and looks as if nothing happened. After refusing to reveal how he recovered, Filippo, who cannot summon Ulterm any longer, uses her #1 secret. Before she takes it out of the tube, Filippo introduces herself. Filippo Bird Lacarda is her full name, and she is the 7th strongest person in her country. As she keeps talking, Gabiru strikes her without warning, destroying her #1 secret weapon. Because her secret weapon is already destroyed, Filippo gets angry and uses her #2 secret weapon. Gabiru is surprised because their scary tentacles of hers manage to absorb the form of other creatures and transform Filippo into an insect chimera. After avoiding Gabiru's attack, Filippo admits she is impressed with Gabiru because even though he hasn't reached his epic awakening, he already has equal strength to her. Seeing Gabiru puzzled by the term epic awakening, Filippo refuses to tell him because she has been ignored before. Gabiru then asks to change his outfit, which looks similar to her. Not only Gabiru, but Parabellum also finally manages to win the epic battle with a lot of effort from their skills. Gobumi, who is worried about Gabiru, quickly heads to see him. At the same time, Filippo, who is satisfied with the battle, comes out of her chimera form and runs away, while her chimera form is still able to move and block Gabiru. Gabiru is upset with the outcome, since it is the first time he lost his prey. He vows that he will eat Filippo one day. Gobumi flies toward the next emperor of the empire. The point is that Gabiru doesn't want continuous war. In the medicine over, Gabiru's clone disappears from there. Without revealing to his men what happened, the commander withdraws the force because the secret elvish medicine is obtained. After the war ends, it looks like they got some new prisoners. Gabiru comes across 2 soldiers and he tells them to leave as the war has ended. Later that night, Parabellum is seen holding a funeral for 6 hobgoblins, 2 hobgoblin mages, 8 goblins, 10 kobolds, and 4 male elves who were killed in the battle. In that world, cremation is mandatory to prevent their fallen comrades from becoming zombies or ghosts. Different from Parabellum, who is sad about her fallen comrades, or from Hobusi, who is regretful as she should have been stronger, Gabiru admits that he doesn't feel any sadness. However, he thinks that he has to work harder for those who died. The scene switches and shows Gabiru, who wakes up to the unpleasant smell of Hobufu. He realizes that the colony members successfully evolved thanks to the battle yesterday. Hobufu is seen to evolve into a ghoul after eating lots of zombies lately. Hobuji also evolved into a half-saint lord and got a defensive skill called Shell Field, which can withstand Gabiru's attack for 20 times. Then Gabiru realizes that Hobufu has something in her mind regarding Gobukichi and Hobuji. For the first time, Gabiru, the most overpowering person, is afraid of what Hobufu thinks of them right now. Then Gabiru is shocked to see Hobum's eyes. Hobum is believed to have evolved into a Dodomeki and serves to assist in the front lines even though her fighting skill is minimal, thanks to her illusion magic, remote viewing, and entroscopy skill. She can gather information. Meanwhile, old Gobuji is seen thinking of names for those who have evolved. Besides Hobufu, Hobuji, and Hobum, 7 other hobgoblins have also evolved into ogres. Later, Gabiru is surprised with the new ogres because although Goblin is a race who has selfish nature, goblins in his colony have strong feelings for their dead companions. Besides the evolution of the goblins, Gabiru is also surprised with the kobold leader who also evolved into a kobold warrior. He then tells Gabiru of his real name, Ekike's no Tsuji. Hearing that, Gabiru remembers about Gobuji, who taught him about real name, which is a certain name of an individual who has reached a certain level, and it is prohibited to share it with others because it is feared that they will be hit by a spell using the name as the intermediary. That's why Gobuji named Gabiru, and the others with random names. After that, Gabiru decides to call the kobold leader Akitaken. Gabiru heads to see the prisoners to give them directions on what they will do. They are allowed to leave the village or stay. Of all the prisoners, there are 3 captives who feel superior to the goblins and refuse to be ordered around by an ogre like Gabiru. They then challenge Gobumi, whom they think is the leader of the colony, in a duel. However, after realizing that Gabiru is the real leader of the company, they continue to disdain him, making Gobumi almost lose her patience. To satisfy their arrogance, Gabiru tells the 2 of them to fight him at once. Everyone is captivated by the 2 as they use their orb weapons, as well as Gobuji, who secretly touches Hobusato and Hobusi. He then tells them to watch the 2 prisoners as they will also use the orb. Finishing with the 2, Gabiru also manages to take down several black lizardmen. Gabiru has just asked 2 healers to cure the lizardmen when suddenly he is attacked by an ape monster until he hits a huge rock. Feeling he has gained victory, the ape monster confidently and arrogantly declares himself the new leader of the colony. However, he is taken down easily by Gabiru after that. Then the half-damper is the last troublemaker. Gabiru is getting furious when he seduces Gobumi right before him, and he quickly pins him on the ground and tortures him. He finally heals the half-damper with his blood. Afterward, 3 other prisoners thank Gabiru for saving and healing them. Therefore, they won't act harshly toward Gabiru and the others. Gabiru accepts their gratitude happily. He has just felt relieved when the half-damper touches his hand and expresses his fondness for Gabiru's blood. After giving a lesson to the half-damper, Gabiru and Gobumi leave the site. Finally, the colony has got 50 temporary members. Long story short, after watching the new members training and walking the pressing his aura, which often makes beasts run away from him. Besides that, he also intends to meet Dryad to ask for an object he had requested the other day. However, they end up having fun together. As a result, he is scolded by Gobumi and Rubelia, and he has to accompany them. The next morning, Gabiru and the others are planting magical seeds from Dryad. On the same day, several temporary members bid farewell to return to their homes. Moreover, the noble knights are also released with a brainwashing procedure so that Gabiru can get important information from the insiders. After that, the elf chieftain invites Gabiru and Parabellum to the elf Lutroff banquet. After listening to the chief about the rules regarding the prohibition of contact with other races, Gabiru finds out that the chief's little brother befriended other races and had him expelled from the village. Thus, the chief states that if his brother wants to come home now, they will gladly accept him. It all started with Gabiru and Parabellum, who made them realize about unity and togetherness. Apart from the discussion, the banquet and princess male dance are intended to send the souls of their deceased families and friends away. Returning to their base, Gabiru and Gobu dig up the last spirit stone, which Gobu named them Returner and Velvet. Those names are taken from the name of the legendary mage and the carbuncle who guarded her master's treasure chamber for decades or even hundreds of years. Gabiru is then seen making crafts using piles of his skeleton and manages to make a vehicle named Skull Centipede. Rubelia and the other humans are surprised because Gabiru suddenly talks about their return to the human world. On the 91st day, their onsen building has finally been completed. Some of the temporary members bid farewell after helping the colony. Meanwhile, Rubelia is out of focus from sparring with Steel. Steel, who rarely deals with women, says that their boss is not 100% throwing them out. The next morning, Gabiru helps with the preparation of the girls' return. They pick up several fruits and natural products to be sold in the town. On the 93rd day, the colony arranges a welcoming party to welcome the new members who decide to stay with them. 3 monsters who previously fought Gabiru named Netsuki, Fuki, and Genki also decide to live there. The next day, Gabiru divides the colony into 5 groups. While the scene shows all the members of the colony, Gabiru explains the 4 most important things to them. First, they need to find information about the outside world as much as possible. Then they have to solve their own problem. Third, all members must level up as much as possible. The most important is don't let any of them die out there. Meanwhile, Hobufu and Gobuhi will stay in their base. Finally, they part ways and it makes the colony quiet while they explore the outside world. Although Gabiru feels sad to part with the members, new monsters out there are waiting to be eaten. Gabiru's company finally arrives at Trance City. The city has a 25% quota for demi-humans among its dense population. As the guards spot Gabiru, they are hysterical and intend to evacuate the inhabitants. Luckily, after Rubelia and the others explain to the guards, they are allowed to enter the city and obtain temporary residence. Before going around the town, Gabiru tells the girls to decide whether they want to stay in the town or come back to the colony with him. He says that he will respect their decision. In his monologue, he doesn't want to lose them. After that, Rubelia walks Gabiru and Gobume around the town. Meanwhile, Alma, Felicia, and the others offer their products to the local traders in the town. On the other hand, Gabiru several times almost gets attacked by the townspeople because of his ogre appearance. Meeting with the owner of a business company, they are briefed that they have to become adventurers. Rubelia immediately offers herself to take care of all the documents. After gathering the Spinel and the others, they intend to go to the clothes store, but Gabiru refuses to join them. Gabiru then transforms into his past life form, Tomoe Canada. Gabiru leaves them and says that he wants to gather information about the town. Seeing Gabiru's transformation skill, Netsuki doubts if Gabiru is a real ogre. Meanwhile, Fuki tells him not to think of their boss too hard. Based on what he hears from the townspeople, he finds out that ogre has a really bad reputation. Gabiru walks into an alley and is ambushed by several thugs, but he manages to take care of it easily. While eating the thug's flesh, he discovers that all thugs have rings with the same pattern. He assumes that they work in a great organization. Not long after, Gabiru spots a young knight looking for the princess who seems to be kidnapped by people who wear the same rings as the thugs before. As they want to hurt the knight, Gabiru quickly saves him. Instead of thanking Gabiru, the young man scolds him for letting the thugs escape. Annoyed, Gabiru hits the man's head and scolds him. After convincing him that he has a plan to find them, Gabiru tells the knight to call him through his Parabellum card if he needs help without being discovered by other people. Long story short, the knight meets Gabiru and tells him what happened. Then Gabiru reveals that he has discovered the thug's hideout. Finally, Gabiru manages to defeat the kidnappers and rescue the tomboy princess. After setting fire to the kidnappers' temporary base, Gabiru tells the knight to keep it secret and report that the kidnapping incident is the princess's plan. Because he insists on telling the truth to the king, Genki proceeds with his hypnosis skill to force him to obey Gabiru's words. The next morning, Gabiru receives a call from Seiji, who informs him that a goblin baby has been born safely. Although he feels happy with the news, Gabiru still needs to listen to the girls' answers. Unexpectedly, the girls state that they want to come back with him to the colony. Gabiru listens to their answer carefully and feels relieved. Just then, the tomboy princess cheerfully comes and thanks Gabiru for saving her last night. She then introduces herself to Gabiru and the girls. Rubelia or Ruby comes to ask Gabiru, the leader of Parabellum Mercenary, to escort her to the royal capital Oswell. Gabiru is surprised to see how Ruby talks to him because it's the first time there is someone who isn't afraid of his appearance and talks like a woman. Gabiru wonders who the princess is. So as not to disturb the surroundings, Gabiru finally had to listen to the princess's request. However, no matter how many times Gabiru tries to reject it, it is only met with a smile and a small laugh that diverts the rejection. Even though at first Gabiru insists on refusing it because they offer a gold plate for the payment, which is equivalent to 1 million gold coins. And because of the girl's insistence, Gabiru finally accepts the request. Apart from that, he is also curious about the royal capital. After meeting Ruby and the knight in front of the gate, Gabiru is shocked to find out that Ruby didn't tell her guards about her departure. Gabiru believes it will cause a commotion and it will be risky for Gabiru, who is thought to have kidnapped her. Not only is she talkative, but Ruby also acts as she pleases. She casually sits on Gabiru's shoulder. After hunting several buffaloes and eating together, Rubelia wants to fight the evolution of a horned rabbit, which is called the Blade Rabbit. Meanwhile, the princess often makes everyone worry about her axe. She almost gets hit by a chicken monster and nearly falls from the skull centipede. Moreover, she also scares Alma and Felicia while cooking. On the 104th day, due to Netsuki's words, Gabiru is curious about the 88 shell snake monster hiding in their nest underground. Gabiru gets ready to capture all the snakes. Ruby apologizes for her foolish acts and offers to help Felicia cook as a form of apology. After enjoying their food, they continue their journey. Gabiru is curious with a princess who is curious about many things and seems to be looking for a lot of experience when she sets foot in the outside world. When the company is taking a rest, the young knight, who is also Ruby's childhood friend, asks Gabiru to let him join the morning training. Suddenly, Ruby joins them and requests to join the training too, which is flatly refused by the knight. Long story short, the young knight looks exhausted because he is too dependent on the level. Meanwhile, Ruby is seen training hard and something she said disturbs Gabiru's mind. Right after choosing the cliffside route, which is the place of the Falaise Eagle, as well as the place of the Falaise evolution monster called Jade Eagle, Netsuki and Fuki look terrified and don't want to know if the monsters attack them. When a group of Falaise Eagles tries to attack Gabiru and the company, Gabiru quickly catches them with his spiderweb skill. After eating fried Falaise Eagles, the company has to face off against the Jade Eagle, and they decide to eat it right away. The fight that has lasted for an hour makes Fuki and Netsuki pessimistic and intend to run away and abandon Gaburo. This lack of trust actually makes Gobumi and Rubel fed up, but Gobumi assures them that if Gaburo dies, she will kill the Jade Eagle, even if her life is at stake. Fuki then tells everyone that it is quiet outside. When they open the curtain, they are shocked to see Gaburo, who is overwhelmed by the eagle's power. Thinking that it is all over, it turns out Gaburo measures his opponent's power. Then he states that he is going to be serious this time. After eating his arm and leg, which were cut off, are quickly regenerated. He continues to fight the Jade Eagle until he knocks down the eagle. Seeing how Gaburo defeats the eagle, Netsuke and his gang are afraid of him. Gaburo picks up a spirit stone from the Jade Eagle's body. A stone, which is believed to be worth the equivalent of a village, can actually be used as material for making high-level magic tools. After eating the Jade Eagle meat, Gaburo seems to obtain several abilities such as Feather Arrow, Sky Predator, Blessing of the Storm God, Complete Wind Resistance, Adamantine Claws, and Sonic Flight. While Gaburo examines his new abilities, Ruby asks him the reason he always eats the monsters he killed. The question makes Gaburo remember his memories before he reincarnated. A similar question is answered with the same answer as he did. He says that he eats the monsters because he killed them, and all that for his survival, as well as to bear the regret and revenge of those he had killed. Different from all his friends in the past who thought it was strange, Ruby remains silent while trying to comprehend this. The episode opens by showing Gaburo and his party arriving at the village of Mason. Seeing an ogre appearance in their country, the villagers shout frantically and try to fight Gaburo. The demi-human races in the village often face lots of adversity. As the situation gets worse, Ruby immediately shows her emblem, shocking everyone. Thanks to Ruby's royal status, everyone steps aside and clears the path for Gaburo and his party. Due to Ruby's appearance in the village, the party is welcome to stay at the mayor's residence. They then visit a huge waterfall, which is the landmark of the village. Everyone is having fun at the waterfall. Later, Gaburo and his party are given a chance to enjoy the hot springs. Later that night, the party has a good time at the party with the villagers. Moreover, the mayor kindly offers them the best liquor in the village. While everyone is having a pleasant time, one of the villagers ruins the moment by touching Gobumi's body. Thus, to clear up the commotion, Gaburo challenges the villagers to do a drinking contest. Gaburo offers 4 silver plates to those who can beat him in the drinking contest. Hearing that they will have a chance to get a huge reward, everyone is excited to take part, and it successfully clears the problem. However, the villagers end up getting drunk and Gaburo wins the drinking contest. Then it is revealed that as an ogre, Gaburo never gets drunk and the idea of a drinking contest is just a sham. Gaburo enjoys dried fish by himself and obtains new abilities thanks to the food. On the 110th day, Gaburo's party discovers a shocking fact. In the morning, Gaburo and his party leave the village to continue their journey towards the Cluster Mountains. It is a quiet and peaceful journey, and Gaburo predicts that they are going to arrive at the mountains tomorrow morning. However, Gaburo finds out that Alma and Felicia don't look good. The twins assume they feel a little bit tired after cooking for the villagers last night. Hearing that, Gaburo tells the twins to rest and not worry about dinner because he will cook for them. The next day, while Gaburo is still riding the centipede skeleton, Rubelia screams and tells Gaburo to stop. Gaburo checks inside and is taken aback to see the twins' condition. Their bellies balloon up all of a sudden. Gaburo predicts that they are pregnant with his children. Gaburo quickly calls Gobuji to report the incident. Gobuji seems to be surprised by the news and advises Gaburo to find shelter immediately. Gobuji explains that ogre children may steal nutrition from their mothers and will be born quickly. Apart from that, Gobuji is worried about Alma and Felicia because they are humans and their strength is not like an ogre. Considering their condition, Gobuji is afraid that they will be starved. Gaburo then decides to continue their way to find a safe place to make the delivery. On the other hand, Gaburo feels relieved that the tomboy princess doesn't make a fuss in the current situation and sits back with the young knight. Meanwhile, Alma and Felicia become even weaker, yet they still act like they are fine, so Gaburo doesn't worry. In their weak state, they remain enthusiastic because they are going to have Gaburo's children. Later, Spinal finds out that Alma and Felicia are growing weaker, and that the life potion and blood supplements cannot recover their condition. Spinal explains that they need nutrient-dense regularly to stay alive. Everyone is worried about the twins' condition, but they cannot do anything to help them out. There, Gaburo makes a difficult decision for the twins. He cuts his arm and tells the pregnant twins to eat his flesh. He believes that it will help them maintain their strength. The twins look at Gaburo in horror and refuse to eat his arm because they don't want Gaburo to suffer. Gobui tries to convince them to obey Gaburo and explains to them that Gaburo can grow back his arm quickly. Seeing the twins' resistance, Gabiru then bites his own arm and has Alma and Felicia drink his blood by force. At first, Alma and Felicia try to refuse it, but they give in after Gabiru says that he doesn't want to lose them and their children. Sometime later, Gabiru discovers a quiet cave and finds out some quad-armed bears live inside. They quickly knock down the bears and prepare the beds for the twins. Gabiru then proceeds to give them anesthesia and healing charm to keep them under control. Time passes by and it starts raining. Felicia cannot stand the pain and passes out. Gabiru makes a video communication with Seiji because he wants to show him how to make the delivery through a certain procedure. He then creates a scalpel with high-class equipment materialization and begins to make incisions in the sisters' abdomens. It is still raining outside and Gabiru manages to make the delivery safely. Thanks to Gabiru's abilities and blood, both Alma and Felicia quickly heal without a trace. Meanwhile, Gabiru is still shaken and doesn't expect that he will become a father on his 111th day. Just then, Hobuji tells Gabiru about his children. He's afraid that they may be mixed blood and will be feared and hated later. Apparently, when humans mate with demi-humans, their child may become a special race called a mixed blood. It's afraid that the child will be hated by both races and be treated as a monster, which brings catastrophe. However, Gabiru ensures that he will take care of his children and will give them lots of love. Seiji interrupts them and asks about the delivery. Felicia has a girl named Oro while Alma has a boy named Argento, and they are both born with orbs because of the orbs and dragon spheres. On the next day, it begins to snow around the cave. Gabiru is seen heading out to seek for a prey. Walking in the snow, Gabiru comes across a beautiful white giant deer called White Stag. He walks closer to the boss-class beast and gets ready to fight the beast. However, the deer isn't moving. Instead, it falls off its antlers and runs away, leaving Gabiru in a state of shock. Gabiru picks up the antlers, and as he is about to eat them, he remembers about his children and decides to bring them home. On the way back to the cave, Gabiru comes across a battle between humans and demi-humans fighting against some Fomorians. The humans and the demi-humans seem to be in control of the battle. The leader of the human force even manages to knock Balor. However, it seems that Balor still survives and is ready to fight back. It stands up and launches its attack, cornering the humans. Although they manage to defeat some Fomorians, they still have to face Balor, the boss. Balor then casts its ultimate sorcery to end the battle. However, as Balor is about to enjoy his victory, he is killed tragically by Gabiru's 4th-level sorcery spell, Verdun Flechet Bar. After defeating Balor, Gabiru thinks of fighting the humans. However, he changes his mind after seeing their leader in person. Impressed with him, Gabiru thinks that they might have defeated Balor themselves. Gabiru pretends that the one who killed Balor is his boss, and he is sent to collect the carcass. Moreover, he also offers to heal them. After collecting the carcass into the item box, Gabiru leaves the party. As he leaves, the leader of the human party talks about Gabiru with his comrade. He says that Gabiru may not have reached Epic yet. However, they are still surprised by Gabiru. On the way back to the cave, Gabiru eats Balor and obtains new abilities. Arriving at the cave, Gabiru is welcomed by his children who now start walking. Gabiru then prepares the white stag's antlers and feeds the children with it. Surprisingly, the white stag's antlers seem to increase the children's strength and give Gabiru lots of abilities. Moreover, Rubelia also receives a new job as the Sacred Beast Eater after eating the antlers. Thus, Gabiru realizes that he might have died if he had fought the white giant deer. As Gabiru falls asleep that night, the system tells him that he has exceeded the level values. It is seen that he has cleared several conditions and he is ready to evolve into an extinct species. As he selects yes, Gabiru receives a true name, Yatendoji. However, the system encounters an error as it continues to proceed. It is shown that Gabiru receives special abilities such as Heretic Nemesis, Fate Plunder, and Legend of the Black Eclipse Demon. The next morning, Gabiru surprises everyone with his new form. Rubelia even comments that he has shrunk. On the 114th day, Gabiru and his party are on the way to the hill country. Suddenly, the party is surprised by Spinal and Emery's pregnancy. They are surprised that it suddenly happens to them. Spinal comments that she felt the signs 2 days ago, yet their bellies have already ballooned up. Gabiru thinks that their children are going to be born soon, so he decides to find a place with a water supply and set up camp there. The tomboy princess encourages Emery and Spinal while sitting on Gabiru's shoulder. This time, Gabiru feels confident in himself because he had done it before. After a while, Emery's and Spinal's baby are safely delivered. Both Emery and Spinal seem happy while holding their babies. Gabiru thanks them and happily welcomes their babies. Apparently, Emery gives birth to a high ogre, while Spinal gives birth to a human baby girl. Gabiru then names the high ogre Onikawa and the baby girl Nicola. The tomboy princess looks at the babies in amazement and comments that the high ogre is much bigger than the human baby girl. Afterward, they continue their journey because Emery and Spinal have recovered and the babies are in good shape. Gaburo predicts that they will arrive at the final checkpoint tomorrow before they reach the city of Purgatory. On the next day, the party arrives at the city. Because they are near the royal capital, the tomboy princess disguises herself so that people won't recognize her. Gaburo then instructs his party to go to the Adventurers Guild to gather information except the four mothers and their babies. Rubelia looks interested in going while Genki doesn't look happy with this. In the Adventurers Guild, Gaburo is challenged by a group of adventurers. However, instead of taking the deal to fight them, Gaburo tells them to fight the rebel trio. Moreover, Gaburo even announces that he will reward them with 5 silver plates if they can beat the trio. Genki, Fuki, and Netsuki are surprised by the idea, but they don't have any options but to fight the adventurers, who look excited about the present. The trio begins to fight the adventurers, while Rubelia and Gobumo watch the battle. It is quite an intense battle that ends up in the trio's victory. It is a moving victory for all three, and they promise to become even stronger. Gaburo happily announces Parabellum Mercenary to everyone and gives them their business card. After that, they go to the market to buy food supplies. Back in the inn, Gaburo takes plenty of pictures of his children using a camera he bought in the market previously. Later that evening, Gaburo checks up on the other groups. He makes a call to Habisato, the leader of the Group 3. Habisato informs Gaburo that everything runs well. She also tells him about Hobuse, who loves buying magic books. Gaburo wonders how she got the money to buy them. Hobuse explains that she had the elves defeat the criminals and take their money. Gaburo is surprised but tells her to not create a fuss which can attract much attention from the townspeople. Then, Gaburo calls Gobu, who is currently gathering information through her eyes. Since the group doesn't encounter a problem, Gaburo tells her to rest and enjoy her free time. Next, Gaburo makes contact with Group 4, which consists of several beastmen. Apparently, the group is lost and is not quite sure of where they should go next because they don't have a leader they can follow and rely on. Hearing that, Gaburo then appoints Haburin to be the leader of the group. Haburin and the others are shocked to hear Gaburo's words, but they don't have an option but to accept it. After bidding farewell to the group, Gaburo tries to make contact with Gobukichi and Gobu. However, he is taken aback by the vision he sees. The next morning, Gaburo tells the others that they need to go to Griffos, the Maze City, to check on Gobukichi. Gaburo is worried if Ruby doesn't agree to his plan, but his worries are unfounded because the princess happily agrees. Netsuki is afraid that Gaburo had a premonition about himself being cut down. Then the group set out for the Maze City, Griffos. On the 117th day, Gaburo enjoys his time with his kids. Outside, Gobumi looks concerned with something while holding the necklace Gaburo gave her when they were just goblins. Gaburo approaches and sits next to her. There, Gobumi explains that many things have happened since he gave her the necklace. She expresses her concern that she is only a gamper and has not given him a child, even though she is the one who really loves Gaburo more than anyone else. Gaburo is moved by Gobumi's feelings to him, and he tries to console her. Gaburo assures her that he will not leave her and that his love will never fade, even though she doesn't give him a child. The next afternoon, the party arrives at the Maze City, Griffos. Gaburo quickly checks the dungeon where Gobukichi and Gobu may be. He encounters several adventurers who tell him about a minotaur in the dungeon. Gaburo then immediately meets the ruler of the city and tells his concern about Gobukichi. The lord then informs Gaburo that 3 parties went into the dungeon to beat the minotaur. At the entrance of the dungeon, Gaburo is surprised by Gobukichi and Gobu walking out of the dungeon while carrying 3 adventurers. It turns out Gobukichi received blessings from a god and grew bigger. Gobukichi has evolved into a new species of minotaur, while Gobu has become Earth Lord Varian. Gaburo questions him about what he saw that night. Gobu explains that they encountered a rare monster called Mind Mirror which can take on his appearance. Gobukichi tried to attack him but failed. However, because of the blessing of the lightning god, he finally managed to kill the monster. Apparently, it was when Gaburo saw himself dead. Then, to prove his current strength, Gobukichi challenges Gaburo to duel with him. Seen by many people, Gaburo and Gobukichi start their duel. Ruby wonders how Gobukichi can fight Gaburo. Gobumi explains that Gobukichi and Gaburo are best friends, and that's why Gobukichi wants to be equal with Gaburo. Everyone anticipates the battle anxiously. Gobukichi looks extremely strong with his axe and shield. Gobukichi is desperate to win the battle and starts to attack Gaburo. Their weapons clash and create a huge flame. Gaburo learns that Gobukichi's axe is both strong and sturdy. Gobukichi lunges at him at extraordinary speed. Luckily, Gaburo manages to avoid his attack in time, although his left eye is exposed to fire. Everyone watches the battle in amazement and is surprised by Gobukichi's current strength. Gabiru learns that Gobukichi can control fire and lightning at the same time thanks to the blessings he received, and Gobukichi even can control fire better than himself. After a while, his left eye recovers and Gobukichi comes to him enthusiastically. Gabiru understands that Gobukichi's desire to be his equal has driven him to become stronger, and he feels proud of his best friend. Gabiru invites Gobukichi to mine the surroundings while fighting and attacks Gobukichi by emerging rocks and water from the ground. Gobukichi is stabbed by the rocks and water, but surprisingly can deal with it. He then uses the phantom from his shield to push Gabiru hard. Learning that Gobukichi has become this strong, Gabiru decides to use his ability, Transcendental Adamantine Power, which can magnify his all-power. He never expects that he will use this ability to face his own friend. Gabiru then grabs Gobukichi's shield and throws him up in the air. Later, Gabiru launches a dance of 1,000 spears at Gobukichi, who struggles to get through it. Gobukichi enrages and launches a stream of fire, making it difficult for Gabiru to find him. Suddenly, Gobukichi appears for the explosion. Gabiru attacks Gobukichi, who is in midair, but Gobukichi can take care of it easily using his shield. Gabiru tries to attack him again and thinks that Gobukichi will give in. However, Gobukichi even becomes more furious and makes an overwhelming fire explosion. Everyone can feel how powerful the explosion is and is worried about them. Just then, Gabiru controls the flow of air at the last second before Gobukichi can destroy everything around them. That way, he manages to focus the fire and lightning on the battle arena. Apparently, Gobukichi was enraged by his desire and forgot to adjust his overpowering strength, and he suddenly realized that his friends might get caught. Gabiru is annoyed with Gobukichi's foolish act and punches him with his ability, Giant's Iron Hammer and Raging Fist Meat Crusher, sending him flying high in the air, creating quite a loud rumbling sound. Gabiru recalls his past with Gobukichi when he hit Gobukichi for the first time to teach him a lesson. Previously, Gobukichi sparred with Gabiru. Their mock battle continued until the next morning as they both were immersed in the battle and put the best of themselves into it. After parting with Gobukichi and Gobu, Gabiru and company continued the journey to their destination. On the 121st day after several days' journey, Princess Rubelia, escorted by Gabiru's party, arrives at the royal capital of Oswell. It is the most beautiful city they have ever visited. Everyone looks at the sight of the city in amazement. The guard looks at them in astonishment as they enter the entrance gate. Gabiru is impressed with the city layout and its sophistication. The Tomoe princess explains that the royal capital of Oswell grows thanks to the nation's wisdom, which allows the city to continually prosper. Afterward, the princess takes Gabiru and the others to the Umber Palace. The young man explains that the Umber Palace is specifically for Princess Rubelia. Everyone is impressed with the huge palace in front of them. Gabun even notes that it is different from their cave in the forest. Then, the Tomoe princess thanks Gabiru for escorting her to the royal capital and lets Gabiru and the others stay in the palace for tonight. Everyone eats like a horse and satisfies their appetite. Later that night, Spinel and Emery find the room is too large and they cannot sleep on the velvety bed. The same thing goes for the twin sisters. They also find the room is so fragrant and are not used to it. However, their kids don't seem to be bothered with it and sleep soundly. On the next day, everyone gathers at the hall. There, the princess thanks Gabiru once again for what he and his company did to her. She also gives him a note of endorsement, a Princel Bill. It is a special card that gives free access to the city. Gabiru asks if she is serious about this, as he may misuse the card for his own benefit. Unexpectedly, the princess states that she has measured Gabiru's character during their journey. She knows that Gabiru is someone who's full of calculations to gain optimal results efficiently and to take the necessary action. She knows that Gabiru won't do such a foolish act. Moreover, she states that she enjoyed the journey and got the value of it. The princess marks that she will surely meet him in the future. Gabiru thinks that the princess is a very unpredictable person. He doesn't expect that she has been sizing him up all this time. He is surprised to find the princess is actually a very skilled strategist. Later, Gabiru and his party are ready to leave the royal capital. The young knight sees them off at the entrance gate and promises that he will continue his training. As they set out to their village, it is seen that Gabiru has put his clones all over the royal capital to monitor the situation in the capital. He feels that he will go there again one day. 2 days have passed and everything goes accordingly. Gabiru is sitting next to Gobuma, who looks gloomy throughout the journey. Gobuma expresses her worries about her current level. She feels inferior compared with Gabiru and Gobukichi because she is the only one who hasn't leveled up until now. As the Gamper variant, she is currently at the 89 level. Gabiru tries to comfort her and states that he will always be by her side. Moreover, he says that he will help her train and level up, no matter how long it takes. Gobuma is moved by Gabiru's words, and she is determined to become stronger with the help of his strength. Gaburo and the party stop midway and help Gobumi training. Gaburo summons several powerful giants using his skill. Gobumi looks at the giants and launches an attack using her sword. She runs towards the giants and strikes them with all her might. Her eyes somehow convey her desire to get stronger as she wants more battle. At last, she ends up defeating 5 black Fomorians, 10 black trolls, and 20 black ogres. She looks exhausted and feels disappointed that she hasn't leveled up yet even after the training. Gaburo approaches her and calms her, saying that she did very well. Reuniting with the others, Gaburo carries Gobumi in his arms after she fainted. Just then, Gaburo also feels his body weaken and he collapses. Rubelia is worried and approaches him. Spinal also walks toward him, explaining that he is experiencing mana depletion. It turns out that helping Gobumi really drains his energy. Spinal warns him that he should mark his condition so it won't happen during the real battle. Later that night, Gobumi receives a notification that informs her that she has unlocked special conditions to evolve into a new variant. The next morning, Gaburo is surprised to find Gobumi's different appearance. It turns out that she has become a vampire noble variant. She then tells Gaburo her true name, Ekaterina, and happily announces that she is now officially his wife. She is blushing and embarrassed after confessing to Gaburo. Meanwhile, Gaburo is relieved that he finally can make Gobumi happy and hugs her. He also feels glad that she has become stronger. The next day, precisely on the 126th, the group finally arrives at the forest where their village is. Gaburo and Gobumi talk about their journey and how they missed their dark cave. However, everyone is shocked when they cannot find their old cave in the same condition. Their dank and dark cave has become huge and bright, with majestic doors and burning torches on the wall. Soon, Gobikichi and Gobu welcome them, along with Hobisato and Hobusi. It turns out they rebuilt their cave and made it bigger than how it was to be. The other members of Parabellum approach them and happily explain what they did. Later, Hobikichi takes Gaburo to look around the cave. They go to the farm where they plant vegetables and fruits for their supplies. There, the Dryad comes and greets Gaburo. It turns out she has joined the company and also has leveled up. She lands on Gaburo's arms and happily introduces her new name, Dorian. Behind them, Hubumi is looking at them with jealousy. Later, they move to the ranch, where Gaburo compliments the wolf and the bear familiars for their work. Then, Gaburo is brought to see the residential block and is briefed about new inhabitants. Several cat settings live with them in their new place. Just then, Seiji runs towards Gaburo. Gaburo and the others go to see Gobuji, who is being hospitalized. Gaburo is shocked to see Gobuji's condition and doesn't expect that he will leave them soon. However, he tries to compose himself and then introduces his kids to Gobuji. Seeing the kids, Gobuji feels glad and moved as he realizes that Gaburo has grown up so fast. Then Gaburo tells Gobuji that he has become an apostle lord and he has changed his name into Aporo. Moreover, he also changes the other's name. He explains that Gobikichi or Agrakichi has become Minakichi because he is a Minotaur, new species now. Gobume, previously called Dami, has now become Kanami, a vampire noble variant. Meanwhile, Gobu, who was previously called Earth, doesn't need a name change since she is an Earth Lord variant. Even though Gobuji mocks Gaburo for making these names, everyone agrees with her new name. Gobuji lies down and recalls his long life and realizes that it was a beautiful life. Gobuji takes his last breath and rests in peace. The moment of silence is suddenly broken by an unexpected reaction. Later, Gaburo and the others send Gobuji's soul to eternity. Everyone seems to be deeply grieved over Gobuji's death. Apparently, Gobuji has lived for 20 years. In his inner monologue, Gaburo admits that he doesn't know the average lifespan of the goblins. However, he will make use of his second life with his people. Gaburo then announces that they will have a fighting tournament among the members of Parabellum to see the results of their journey. Since it is a family tournament, they are not allowed to use weapons and hurt others, or they will be seriously punished. Everyone looks excited with the announcement. Even the kids are eager to join. Rubelia faces off against Steel, and they look prepared for the battle. Later, Gobumi is fighting Hobusi. Both of them look confident in their power. It is such an equal fight, in which Gobumi uses her ice magic and Hobusi uses her fire magic. On the other hand, Gobu has to face Hobisato. Netsuki is challenging Dodomeki, who is dodging his attacks. The other member, Gofu the Ghoul, is seen having fun at the battle against her rival. In the last round is the battle that everyone is anticipating, the battle between best friends Gaburo and Gobikichi. Gobikichi is still determined to win the battle and becomes stronger. A huge explosion occurs when their fists clash. The Parabellum fighting tournament results in Gaburo's victory in the first place. Gobikichi is in the second place. Gobumi is the third and is followed by Gobu in the fourth rank. On the fifth place, there's Hobisato and Hobusi is the sixth. Neki and Fuki are in the seventh and eighth place. followed by Steel Knight and Gufu in the 9th and 10th place. Rubelia is the 11th, while the 12th and 13th place are Genki and Dodome. Gaburo is not surprised with the results and figures out that the heads of each group have higher ranks than their members. Gaburo looks at his people who become stronger and feels proud of them. On the 127th day in the early morning, while everyone is sleeping, Gaburo receives a call from the tomboy princess. It turns out she invites Gaburo to the castle for some business. The princess tries to convince Gaburo with a great deal, which tempts him. The scene ends by showing the Parabellum Mercenary Company is ready to deploy to the royal capital of Oswell. Gaburo doesn't have any idea of what is waiting for them in the capital, but he seems to be looking forward to it. This is the end of Remonster Episode 1 to Episode 12. Thank you so much for staying in this channel and watching our videos. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so we can keep you updated with our latest contents. See you in the next video.